Well, first of all, hello everyone, welcome. I'm Jérôme Legrand. I'm the General Secretary of the Wharton Club of Paris. I'm very pleased to welcome everyone to this virtual event. We have a very strong relationship, a very strong alliance between the two alumni associations of INSEAD and Wharton, and we felt that it was very important during this current crisis to showcase this alliance, the strength of this alliance at work today with tonight's webinar. So I would like to now introduce Deputy Director of Alumni, INSEAD Alumni Association, Sophie Boyer-Chamard, who is going to talk to us for a few minutes.
Oh, thank you very much, Jérôme. Well, needless to say, we're really happy about this partnership and about this event in particular. It's going to be touching upon so many topics that we're actually trying to cover in our alumni association. Of course, we've got about 40 clubs, and a number of them. We've got the Women in Business Club, we've got the Retail, Consumer and Luxury Good. We have an international community. We'll be talking about India, and we have a business and society center of expertise, and we're going to be talking about how Megha is actually giving back to society. I take this opportunity just before we start to mention two of our initiatives over the summer, one of which is a summer blog that we're doing around business and society so that our alumni share how much their businesses can have positive impact. And so you'll be seeing from the 1st of July till the 31st of August, a lot of articles from our alumni, and please join in if you do have articles to share. Another topic is that we've launched a think tank around the next normal perspectives. And that is something we would really like to engage all our alumni from Wharton, from INSEAD in. We're trying to launch a big conversation around what it's going to be after and how our businesses should get ready for the near future. And we've prepared a questionnaire, and I can only engage you to answer this questionnaire, to take part in the conversation, and then we'll feedback into a white paper, and we'll also discuss that in our Essentials, which is our annual event that will be in October. So we do hope that you're all going to take part in the conversation. So that was my little announcements before touching upon the real topic. I would like to thank Jérôme in particular, because this is thanks to Jérôme that we have met Megha. Jérôme, would you introduce us to Megha?
I'm incredibly happy to introduce and welcome Megha Malagatti to this event. I had the great pleasure of meeting Megha when working at Disney for the launch of an amazing Esté Dupont Star Wars limited edition. I also invited Megha for a conference series at Disney to discuss the importance of culture and innovation in companies with strong legacies, long histories. And what struck me the most when I first met Megha was her incredible journey from India to France, from a village to a capital, from engineering to an MBA, from the telecommunications sector to the luxury industry. And over the years, as I got to know Megha better, what I found even more impressive is that all along, Megha pursued a dream. And despite major obstacles, she accomplished this dream. Today, she's going to talk to us about this journey and how she's now also focused on giving back through her foundation. I am very happy that you are with us today. Megha, welcome.
Thank you, Jérôme. It's a pleasure.
And Megha has invited Alain Corvée for our discussion, and Alain will be actually interviewing Megha. Alain is the president of the management board of St. Dupont and has been so since 2006. And before that, Alain graduated from HEC. It's okay.
Sorry.
Alain also worked and had very important positions at Procter & Gamble, also abroad in South America as well, and also worked at LVMH, and if I'm not wrong, at Givenchy in particular. Alain, thank you so much for allowing this seminar to happen, and I'll leave you the floor.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you, Jérôme. And I'm really glad, to be here with Megha today. I mean, we go back a long way. I met Megha over 8 years ago, and I was, by total coincidence, I was Megha's mentor at the ESSEC MBA, and that's where I first met her. And then later, she joined St. Dupont, and that's why, and I'm very, very glad to be here today, and as your long-term mentor, to be asking you a few questions to tell us a bit about your journey.
Co-host.
Yeah, exactly. You're co-hosting in the Dupont office. Well, I'd like to start maybe first time I met you, you were telling me, and I was actually totally novice. I mean, I did not know anything about India, so that you really started, your life in a little village, and as an untouchable. So maybe you can give us a little hint of, what does that mean? It looks pretty bad, but, how bad is it really?
Oh, it's quite bad. It's quite bad. What I'm going to do is just share a slide. In fact,
voila.
We
call the whole thing from untouchable to unstoppable.
Exactly. So the entire presentation is based on from being an untouchable, how to become unstoppable. And of course, yes, I do come from a very, very tiny village in India. At that time, it was a village, 20, 30 years ago. Now it is a town because, the population of India keeps growing all the time. I know we love reproducing human beings in India. So yes, there are a lot of complexities involved in the Indian culture, and one of them is definitely religion, as it's also very particular and very sensitive subject in India. So pretty much everything revolves religion, and sometimes nothing revolves around religion. It's a paradox in India, which we cannot even, let go.
How many castes? I mean, how is it organized?
So I made this beautiful chart.
Okay.
On caste system in India to talk about, from the highest to the lowest. So you can see that we start with Brahmins, who come from the head of Lord Vishnu, who is the creator. And then Kshatriyas, who are the rulers, especially the warriors. They come from the shoulder because, shoulder gives you the strength. And then Vaishyas, who come from the thigh, who need more artisanal work and who are, into farmers, agriculture, merchants. So they need to walk a lot and they need to have a lot of strength. So they come from the thighs. And Shudras, who are the manual laborers, come from the feet of the god. And then you have this outside, this entire system, you have an outcast, which is called Dalits, and that's the untouchables.
You're an outcast.
So I'm an outcast. I don't even fall into any of these, any of the list. And yes, it's very complex because being an untouchable, you're not allowed to study, you're not allowed to participate in any important occasions, you're not supposed to be in politics. So this was the previous way of living, especially during the British rule. But now, since India has grown, we have undergone globalization as well, the urban cities have improved. And in the urban cities, it's less and less evident today. But if you still go to the villages and the rural areas and the small towns, you can still come across this differentiation of castes.
So you've been lucky actually to be still having access to education. So tell us a little bit, how
I was very lucky, Alain, in this because my great-grandfather and my grandfather were very, very lucky enough to be educated by the Brits. And at that time, the Brits used, the famous rule, like divide and rule. And the way they could divide the untouchables was by giving them access to education, which they did not have. like the other caste people could afford to. So over here they said, wow, these are like a good, 20% of the population in India. It's a good mass. If we get their support, then it's going to be a good support for the Queen.
Yeah.
And that's how they started giving education and opening schools for us. So I was actually brought up in a Catholic institute.
All right.
So I studied in a school which was Loyola Convent in my village, Gadag, and it's based on Catholicism.
After high school, and then you told me once that the usual way in India is either you make it to engineer or doctor. So
yeah, this is a famous unbeatable and unwinnable debates every child in India has with his or her parents, because most of the parents believe in India, even to date, I would say, that either you are an engineer or you're a doctor, and only then you can excel in life. So being an untouchable, coming through, very lucky to have education, getting through the schools with first-class degree, finishing my science as graduate, as a bachelor, and then the next step for me was to enter either engineering or medicine. Medicine, no, because it takes 5 years of studies, 2 years of post-graduation, and few years of, really specialization if you want to become, and it's expensive. Yeah. No, I had a free seat.
Okay.
So I was a scholarship student. So I didn't pay, I wouldn't have had to pay a penny for my thing. However, since it takes so long, it's really long because you can't get married. So by the time you graduate, yes.
So that's the other thing, you have to engineer and getting married.
And getting married very quickly. In India, it's very simple. The parents lay out everything in front of you. So you get your education, you get a 9-to-5 job in a company or in the hospital. Then very young, you get married, you have kids. After you have kids, take care of the kids and then make sure they are schooled properly. And in the meantime, before having kids, get a house.
That was your way. That was your predestination. You had to do that.
Yes, that's the life mantra.
Okay, so tell us, because since you're here, that means that you did not totally follow the way. So what happened on the way?
I did meet them halfway through, or maybe even 3/4, I would say. So I finished my science degree, then moved into engineering, finished my engineering. I lost a year in between because I still wanted to enter fashion. And I desperately lost a year to just prove that, I don't want to work in engineering. That did not work with my parents, of course. They were like, either you get married or you finish engineering. And I was 19, 20 at that time. And I was like, no way, I'm going to get married. So I finished my engineering, started working. And then at age 23, I got married.
All good.
All good.
And married, I heard, I think, from on top, very good caste.
Yes, I've married the top of the caste over here, the Brahmin.
Oh.
They come from the priests, exactly. So they come from the priests, and at the end of the day, it was something. I didn't know the person so well. It was too soon a decision, and I just followed everyone who was following the life, mantra of Indians. And I got into that. It was probably one of the bad decisions I made because I was not at all in love with him. And I just got married for the sake of the society rules.
Pretty quickly, let's say you were 25 or something, 24, and then you were having this not ideal marriage and not, super fulfilling job. And you were thinking to yourself, okay, what am I going to do?
In fact, it was more a combination of both, I would say, because at my job, I started with telecommunications. Then I moved into healthcare solutions. I was pretty much doing sales at that time. And then I had this brilliant opportunity to work with for a joint venture that was created between Apollo Group of Hospitals and Cisco Systems. And we were responsible to come up with a new telemedicine platform for India. This kind of interested me a lot. And I went into pursuing this part of my career. And once we started installing it, once we started implementing it, so we built the entire thing. It was an immense experience in terms of drawing business plans. I was the youngest in the team. So when I went into the room, I was like, I'm open to learning and please teach me whatever you can. I'm here to absorb.
What happened? Because
but then,
interested,
this went on.
Yeah.
However, in my marriage life, right after 2 months, I knew it was not working.
Okay.
It did not even take 2 years for me. However, being an Indian coming from a conservative society, being an untouchable, coming from a village, on top of that, I think the light is, in my favor today. I'm looking quite bright, but I'm relatively dark-skinned in my complexion. So especially when you're dark-skinned, coming from a lower caste, you married pretty much fair-skinned guy who's coming from a high caste, having a good job, you don't divorce.
You don't divorce. You stay there, do your family, and
yes,
okay.
Yes. Whatever come may, you don't do it.
So you had everybody against you.
Everybody was against me. So I tried 3 times. I remember. I have this rule: I give 3 chances, and after 3 chances, no more. So I did try for 3 times to see if it's going to change, if it's going to improve. It did not happen. And few of my friends who are French in Bangalore, they started also consulting me, saying, Megha, you're really good at, you're sensitive with materials, you're sensitive with trends, you can smell these things in air, you understand the fashion universe, you dress, relatively at that time, yes. For Indian standards, I was well dressed, not comparing to the Parisian standards. And they asked me to look into the MBA of luxury. And I said, so at that time, it was a dilemma for me because I had to really think of changing my life altogether.
That would be like, leaving your country, leaving your husband, of course.
Yes,
and then
without divorcing.
Yeah, and then probably a very expensive MBA.
Yes.
And not money to pay for it.
Yes, I didn't have the money to pay for it. You're absolutely right.
So it took you a lot of courage. To really move to this first, this new chapter.
This new chapter, absolutely. So over here, this is where, we come to this part of the presentation where we talk about courage in the life. This is a mantra that I started teaching myself at that time.
The 4 C's. I think it's interesting. We're going to see more of that through the presentation. So
yes.
Really, courage and curiosity. It really requires both to really change everything. So you totally change your life.
Yes.
And came to France.
Absolutely changed my life. In fact, my family was completely against me. There were few friends of mine who really helped me with this process, and I had to sell pretty much everything I had, except for the property. I'll come back to that, why I kept it. And then I had to sell all my jewelry, everything that I received as gifts in my wedding, etc. So financed my education, came here to do ESSEC, MBA, in luxury brand management. And yes, the school also supported me. I had some sponsorship. So financially, it was very difficult because I was not even having good meals to eat during the MBA. I
remember you told me you ate noodles for 1 year. Luckily,
spaghetti with butter, with the bread borrowed from my,
But I think
from my friends.
For our distinguished, listeners, I think frankly, it takes, you change everything. Okay,
yes.
You can imagine as Indian lady against her family, against ex-husband, etc. Moving and coming alone to France to do this MBA in a totally new environment for you and a new business.
Absolutely, and it was very difficult because I couldn't even tell my parents that I'm leaving to France. I didn't tell anyone except for I can count the people on my fingertips who knew I was coming to France. I arranged all of this instead of channeling my energy towards complaining and sulking and I thought, let's put it in a positive way of building yourself and rebuilding your identity instead of succumbing to the societal rules that have been formed in India to really create your individuality in the space. So I invested all my energy into framing next steps towards this. And I didn't even tell my parents that I was leaving to France until 5 days before my flight.
I think that's quite impressive.
So,
and it shows your strengths of character. So, I mean, you went to this ESSEC MBA, which is almost as good as the Wharton and INSEAD, and we don't need to spend too much time on that. But then, after the MBA, I know you did a couple of internships. You started to discover, the world of luxury.
Yes.
So, what were your first impressions? Coming to Paris.
I think I fell in love with Paris when I came, absolutely, because wherever you see outside, you have beautiful, I'm sure not many people can see it, but he has a beautiful view of, Sacré-Cœur and the Concorde and Tour Eiffel over here. It's, when you come to Paris, you cannot not fall in love with the city. It's a city of lights, it's a city of love, it's a city of arts, it's a city of culture, it's a city of heritage. So everything just oozes out from every corner. And I still get goosebumps when I talk about Paris. So first of all, I never imagined that I would come to Paris. If you ask the 10-year-old me in the village that, would you go to Paris? I would be like, what is Paris? Because I didn't even know that Paris existed on the map at that time. And when I finally came here, it was a mix of emotions for me. I was very curious because I'm very curious as a person. I like to learn, I like to discover new things. And incidentally, after I came to Paris, I realized that I love to travel and I'm not afraid of traveling and discovering new cultures. So immediately when I looked at the architecture around, the Haussmannian, the museums, etc., I deep dived into the culture and history of Europe, not only France, but also Italy and Spain, and to learn more about the cultures. And I remember one of my directors from school gave me this book called New Cultures Collide, and it's a very, very good book when you move into a different country or when you're traveling to a different country to know what are the do's and don'ts of that places to really start integrating yourself.
So yes, that's where we met the first time, because then I got the chance to have you being your mentor, and I've been doing this program of mentorship at ESSEC MBA, and you've been my mentee. So since I recognize already immediately your courage and curiosity, I proposed you a job in DuPont, and then you started to contribute. But here again, even though I could see your potential, you started at the lower rank. You started as a sales manager for a small region.
True.
But then you went quickly, up the ranks, and then you moved to marketing. Very, very quickly, product development, and that was really even more your thing. Yes,
I think thanks to you, because I wouldn't have recognized that if I hadn't joined DuPont. In fact, I've been doing almost 7 years of sales before in my engineering days, and a lot of project management, leading teams and developing solutions, handling trainings, and really implementing the new solutions and introducing them to the people to use it. So this was my forte in engineering. But when I came into luxury, I remember during classes, our professors used to talk about Christian Louboutin and Alexander McQueen, and honestly, all those names just flew over my head because I did not know all the names of the brands. And I started learning one by one, and I started getting curious about their history and heritage. And when I joined DuPont, of course, you recognized my sales background, and you hired me as a sales manager for India and United States. But at the same time, I also requested you to give me some marketing activities to learn. So this is when you started giving me few assignments in terms of coming up with ideas to develop products, and I started deep diving into the history and heritage of Estée DuPont. And I think you can learn to do this only when, one, you are at the headquarters of the brand, at the heart where the product is developed, working with the CEO and the artistic director of the brand, which is very, very important, and also having access to the archives of the brand. This gives you a lot of ideas in terms of...
Yeah, and I have to say, also for our distinguished audience, that, you came up with some really very interesting new product ideas and new marketing campaigns. So we've been able, thanks, to your help, to really, keep growing DuPont in a pretty nice way, frankly, you know, in the years when it's been around. So, for example, we just have been putting here for, you know, to share a few examples of, for example, this famous, you know, Slim 7, which is the slimmest luxury lighter in the world, which has a huge hit. I mean, we sell probably as much now as this Slim 7 as a traditional DuPont lighter.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You can maybe say how you came up with the idea. I mean, I have one Slim 7 here, so really, you know, it's very, very slim.
Because the trend that was coming at that time was everybody wanted to be slim. Karl Lagerfeld was hiring all the slim models. Size 0 was, you know, in fashion. And of course, you know, iPhone came really, really slim as well. It was a benchmark. Then there was Mac Air, and then there were these Ultra notebooks that were coming into existence, and everything was reducing in size. And that's when I proposed to you that why not we, you know, we reduce the size of our lighter to bring it to a slim thing so that it can fit into your jeans small pocket. And it does.
Yeah, and actually, you know, also for making a clear understanding, what was really very nice about this lighter, beyond being, you know, technically beautiful and very convenient and very luxurious in look, it was very unisex.
It is.
So for once, absolutely. I mean, we really had as many male or female you know, consumers being really interested, you know,
absolutely.
by the slim. Then you put it even further because you came with a second idea, which even I'll let you explain, that the magic, you know.
This I love because, you know, I love candles at home, and coming from working for a brand like Essay Dupont that is so very well known for lighters, I was using Porsche at home. And I was like, this is a mega market in terms of, you know, women, recruiting women consumers for a brand like Essay Dupont, which is more predominantly a men's brand. And I came up with an idea to why not have a lighter that can light candles to address, you know, address the women over here. So, voila. It's super elegant.
The magic, you know, the magic touch of Megha. Maybe you can show it more on the.
It is in the screen over here.
So you see it well on the,
absolutely.
On the screen. So that was really like, you know, two of your major creations, and then we also had this kind of, you know, high-end atelier creating exceptional one-piece
products, which we created a lot and we sold a lot, including with Jerome and his team. We did even very unique Star Wars products as well.
We're going to see later in a minute.
But then what we discussed even when I joined, which was initially your idea as well when you joined DuPont, but it was not taken ahead as a project. And my school project was based on, you know, hydroelectricity. So we decided to, you know, relaunch the project of creating the world's first ever water lighter, and voila.
Yeah, it's a prototype.
It's a prototype. It works.
It was pretty expensive.
It's very expensive.
Around 50,000 euro, while the other ones are very affordable. But this one was really transforming water into fire.
Absolutely.
Decomposing the water, and so it's kind of, you know, engineering dash luxury.
And I loved it.
A lot of, you know, attention on that.
Absolutely. And this is how. Sorry, Anna.
Sure.
So over here, these are the things that really realized me how to modernize a brand, yet keeping the value of the brand. If I hadn't done these products and innovations at DuPont, I wouldn't have understand what is the thin line balance between going, you know, too far away.
Yeah, I just had, you know, a fun anecdote coming back to my mind, which is like, you know, because you also did later this amazing partnership, which we're going to see in a minute, which is the next level. But at the same time, you know, talking about your style, because you definitely had, you know, this courage and curiosity.
Yes.
But I mean, you know, you were also a little bit, let's say, how can I say it politely, rough on the edges. Okay, I mean, like, you know, you were very combative. I mean, you were really like, you know, and with salespeople, and I was telling you sometimes, be careful, you really need to, you know, to work your style. And it's funny because you can show also, like, you know, you both change your dressing style and you also change your management style. Okay, maybe you can just, you know, show.
Yes, that's a very interesting analysis, because it's true. When I came into DuPont, at the end of the day, you know, you come from 1.3 billion people population, and in a class of students, you're not less than 100 people, you know, 100 students in a class. So if you have to be heard and if you have to prove what you're doing, You have to be super aggressive, lift your hand, speak loud, and you have to be very, very vocal and heard. Otherwise, you're not heard.
I can understand that. Something with your background coming as an untouchable woman, having to fight a lot, you know, in engineering already. I mean, actually having to stand up for your ideas.
Absolutely.
So that's what you brought with you in your style. But you soon understood, I guess, that, you know, in the world of luxury, you can have your conviction, and you come back to that, but you need to present it or frame it in a way which is really like more sellable.
I got inspired. Honestly, I got inspired by Paris. I got inspired by Parisian women specifically, because they are, I feel that they're very elegant. They dress very sensually elegant. They are not, I don't see them as vulgar. I don't see them, because you can, you know, in certain parts of the country, in certain parts of the world, you do have a lot of, you know, extreme way of dressing. But when it comes to France, I saw that people choose things very well. They are very, very well adapted to color coordination. You don't need a lot, but with a few you can mix and match, and you can make it you can present yourself in a better way. So yes, I did transform myself in terms of dressing. Here is a very old picture of mine, yes. And then this is now, which is becoming a Parisian.
Indian Parisian, but still a Parisian, definitely.
Indian Parisian, exactly. And
I can see the change also. I mean, like, you know, using a lot of black and white outfits, which is indeed. I mean, I think like definitely. I mean, you know, of course, beyond Coco Chanel, but I mean, or Saint Laurent, using always like, you know, those two color codes, which are always very elegant and feminine.
Absolutely. And I got more comfortable to wear white in India, because as a child, since I'm dark skinned, everybody around me was just talking about how not beautiful I am, how nobody's going to get married to me because I'm so dark, and I should never wear white or light colors because they will make me look more dark. You know?
And then you still managed to marry a Brahmin, and then you dumped him to come, you know, to Paris.
So now I'm more comfortable and I have more confidence, and this is for sure for the life that I have created in France. And I should also thank France and my mentors like yourself, my job profiles that have helped me evolve as an individual as well. So now I think I'm more comfortable in terms of addressing people, in terms of being comfortable in your own skin, and exuberate confidence.
That's good, because on top of your courage, you know, and curiosity, you added this notion of confidence and conviction, but in a nice way.
Yes.
So that allowed you to move, you know, then to the following step, which was still exactly, we talk about conviction and connections.
Absolutely.
Okay? And you know, in Dupont, beyond creating new products, you also, and it was a big part of, you know, what really made Dupont also progress, was building these, you know, new partnerships. And that's also where we met Jerome in Disney. And you created some really cool new products in, you know, collaboration with big companies such as Disney and others. So maybe you can just tell us a word about that.
I think it actually comes a lot with the network I started creating, in terms of being very persistent, and also with help of people around you, like around me, like you and Stefan from our creative director, Eric, who is in our operations, who is our operations director. So with all the inputs, I think there were a few ideas that came out that translated into products. For example, again, deep diving into the history of the brand, deep diving into the art and culture of Paris. So it goes hand in hand. If I was not curious enough to know about the entire history of Picasso, I could have never had the opportunity to make a collaboration, whether it's Picasso or Monet or Van Gogh or, you know.
Just to explain for those who might not know, I mean, in fact, you know, Megha uncovered the fact that Pablo Picasso, who was a chain smoker, had a collection of Dupont, and he loved to paint faces, not to paint actually, but with a nail, to draw or sculpt faces. So we approached, you know, the Picasso family, and they were very glad to lend us some of the originals, which we replicated in limited edition.
Absolutely. So, and then, of course, you know, we did with Louis XIII, which was another example, the best cognac in the world by Remy Martin. And then we also did with Jérôme's Disney partners. We did Star Wars. This is the X-Wing.
That was for the launch of, the new episode
The relaunch of the entire
exactly.
Star Wars series. It was incredible. It was a huge success. We sold out pretty much everything.
An amazing pen.
An amazing pen.
Yeah, in the
this
shape
is a pen.
of an X-Wing. It was sold out very, very quickly.
Very quickly. So here again, I learned how to, really collaborate the two paradoxes of luxury in terms of maintaining the originality, the dream of the brand, but also modernizing it in terms of design and materials that I used. Absolutely. When you have the right story, when you have the right product and the right quality, and
so in fact, us, Dupont being part of Comité Colbert, which is a big association of luxury, houses in France,
absolutely.
and they are both the CEOs, but then there are some, selected directors who can also be part of Comité Colbert. So of course, you've been selected by the Comité Colbert to be part of, several working sessions, and also where you met, for example, the Vitesse people, but many others.
Absolutely.
You were really at the core of the French luxury.
This really comes into the connection part now, where I kind of Comité Colbert and certain events that helped me progress at Dupont opened doors to more of the luxury arena, I would say. And before, yes, I did have a good network by studying at ESSEC, by coming into Dupont. But when I started participating in Comité Colbert, I started getting to know Vuitton, Dior, Hermès, Chanel, Vacheron Constantin, Van Cleef & Arpels. So almost around like 40 brands that are under the umbrella of Comité Colbert, because Comité Colbert, for those who don't know, it's an institution in Paris. It's a French institution that houses all the luxury brands, true luxury brands, under its umbrella, and helps innovate and take us forward into the next era of luxury. Yeah. So, and they do it extremely well. So I met, of course, I met people from Krug, from Saint Laurent, from Cartier, and I started discussing projects with them. For example, I would say in Hermès, one of the couple of people who really helped me in terms of shaping my path and discussing the luxury details is Guillaume de Seine, of course, and Guérin, Wilfred. So these are the people, and of course, even from Krug, Maggie Enriquez, who also helps me in terms of developing myself and also knowing luxury and knowing wines and spirits in a better way.
I actually heard that, because thanks to your connection with Maggie Enriquez, you also did some oenology classes and you graduated.
Yes, I did.
You also become a wine and champagne expert. That's good.
Yes, I am. I'm yet to finish one more. But I'm going to be there. I want to become a true Parisian.
And so actually,
you need to know your wine and cheese.
Exactly. And then after, and this also continued to broaden your network and your connections. And then also you met some people from L'Oréal, which then took you to where you are today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe you want to explain, the jump, again, because after luxury accessories, wine, spirits, now beauty and beauty cosmetics and perfume.
Yes, I think it is a good transition because I did sales for almost 7 years in engineering. Then I moved into a little bit of sales, but majoritarily into marketing for 7.5 years with Dupont. And then it was time for me, as you know, we had this conversation as well, when I was starting to, look for other opportunities which would strengthen my capabilities a bit more. I came to you and Sharon as well at that time, and you advised me that, Megha, you've done marketing. The next thing you have to do is a commercial role that would strengthen you as
several brands, running a region.
Absolutely. And this is what I discovered when I met L'Oréal, and it was Monsieur Jean-Claude Legrand who interviewed me.
And he spotted you as,
he spotted me, yes,
a great candidate, to build, their business in the
India and Indian subcontinent. So over here, it's a big challenge, but at the same time, I'm originally from India, so I know.
It's really interesting because I was just thinking, you took a one-way ticket to France, leaving everything behind, and then you started to rebuild a totally new, life, career, interest, etc., with a lot of success. And now, I mean, you know, you move to one of the biggest and most prestigious groups. You are going to talk to us a little bit about that in a minute. And then you are building back the bridge to India.
Yes.
But then, you know, using both now what you learned, with your French and European artistic and luxury experience, and then reapplying it, you know, back into India, which is also why you have your other private priority, which we end up with
later on. It's true. I came from India at that time. I did have a little bit of experience in Southeast Asia, I would say, in Malaysia, Singapore, and a bit in Dubai. However, I was not exposed to Europe. I never came to Europe. I never went to the United States, and I had never been to Japan. But when I joined DuPont, it was a big eye-opener for me because as a marketing director of the brand, I could travel and discover different cultures around the world. I could travel from United States to most of the countries in Europe, to Middle East, to India, to China, Hong Kong, Korea, not North Korea, South Korea, and Japan, you know. So covering pretty much most of the continents around the world where these are the priority markets for luxury business, I could also learn the local cultures. It was an eye-opener to me in terms of how you need to embrace the differences between people, how you need to be open-minded, and how you need to adapt and also take the good thing that comes along your way and leave the bad things, because everything has yin and a yang. So we need to take the good stuff and then leave away the bad stuff. And this is what I did. And by having this international experience, now when I'm given the opportunity to really roll out a commercial role at L'Oreal, I was like, this is great, because I have this bundle of knowledge that comes from the international markets.
So please explain to us, because I mean, like, you know, you are always passionate, and that's perfect. And you know, since I was with Givenchy and LVMH, I know a little bit, of course, about L'Oreal Group, but maybe not everybody is familiar with their beautiful, like, you know,
absolutely. To start with,
brands and everything they have. So it's really interesting.
For sure.
And your mission now, I mean, like, you know, your new assignment.
Definitely. So taking all of this experience, I wanted to go back to India and implement it, because we know that India is emerging right now to run with the luxury businesses. And for me, when you're entering into very high-end luxury brands right now in India, because we consider even Zara and H&M as luxury in India. So Dior, Louis Vuitton, they are Hermes, they are uber luxury in India. So there is a huge gap in between. So to bridge the gap, I think personally, beauty is something that can play a role, because beauty is an easy entry for all the brands. You can talk about it, you can get to know the brand, and once you start using them, you start knowing the brand and then adapting yourself to next steps over there. So just to give a small introduction about India, it's a fascinating country. Everybody is really curious about knowing what India is. However, we need to understand that it's unity in diversity. And we have 122 major languages with almost 1,600 dialects, with probably a good 20,000 sub-dialects. You know, it's really, really huge. 9 religions, although we saw a few religions in the, you know, we saw only Hinduism in the beginning, but also we have Buddhism, we have Jainism.
You're coming from the south of India.
And I come from the south of India. Yes, I come from the south of India. And then we have different greetings in India. And at the same time, India is extremely strong in terms of fashion and jewelry, which is very, very particular to India. For example, in a wedding, I would rather wear my traditional Indian outfit rather than a Dior evening wear, because it's fascinating, it's beautiful, it's very elegant. And what we call it as a sari in India, I think it's one of the most sexiest clothes you can ever wear in India. So it's super.
Indian wedding.
So yes, we are very rich in terms of ready to wear, in terms of our cultural ready to wear, and in terms of jewelry making as well, we are very, very strong. So brands like Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, Bulgari, it's a little difficult for them to enter the Indian market as of today. And we are very far away from reaching where China is. So to enter now, what we are devising with my team, in India, is working hand in hand with the local market over there. Yeah. Since I'm in charge of the travel retail for the ISC region as a director, I'm going to be working with the local market GM.
That's all to clarify, for people that listen. That's all the airport businesses, international,
yes, and domestic,
both in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and
yes,
all the Indians.
Yes, Maldives, Sri Lanka.
And it's probably a big priority for L'Oréal because I know for them, like travel retail, overall is almost a division. It is a division on its own and one of the priorities of Mr. Aragon.
It is absolutely, and I think I was one of the first few ones who was hired as a multi-div, as a multi-divisional. That means handling all the brand portfolios to develop across the region, which was not the case before. So it's very exciting because we have beautiful brands like Lancôme, where we have Julia Roberts as our face. We have YSL. We have, this is Lipa. Then we have Kate Blanchett for Giorgio Armani. So with these fantastic ambassadors, I'm sure there's a lot to be done.
The dream team of L'Oréal. So these are all of the priorities. And then, skincare, of course.
Yes, we have around 32 brands under our umbrella. And it's very important to prioritize what we need to do because you can't give attention to all the 32 brands at the same time. So we are devising in terms of what should be our priority brands, what should be our priority accesses, whether it's fragrances, skincare, or makeup, and devise strategies accordingly to recruit the new Indian women and men consumers.
Today, you were telling me that in India, the kind of more affordable, quote-unquote, brands like L'Oréal Paris or Garnier are present. Yes. In fact, the luxury is starting, but there's a huge potential. It's only like the premises. The tip of
absolutely, the absolutely. Estée Lauder has been present in India since the past 10 years with MAC. We also have Clinique, who's been in India for almost a good 20 years, I would say. So they have created a good base in India. And for L'Oréal, it's a completely new opportunity in terms of luxury that we are going to discover and implant in the minds of Indians, because in India, when you talk about the nationalities, basically, whether it's travel or local, it's mostly Indians, as opposed to when in Dubai, you have Chinese, you have Russians, it's super international. But for India, we need to be super concentrated on what do the Indians want.
Your main focus is going to be Indian consumers.
1.3 billion population of India, not all of them.
But I guess a lot of Indian women, maybe, because they, of course,
yes.
And then I think it's fantastic because also that your passion to it is like, giving more support, more confidence, and more beauty to women. And I think that's exactly the mission of
absolutely,
L'Oréal.
You're absolutely right. I think this is one of the things that really attracted me to join L'Oréal as well, because what L'Oréal believes in and what we believe in is to uplift women's confidence. And this initiative is called Sharing Beauty with All. This is what our CEO, Mr. Jean-Paul Lago, talks about all the time, and sustainability as well. So especially to empower women on this earth is very, very dear and at heart of L'Oréal, apart from the products that we develop. And yes, it's a great mission to have, and the team is fantastic. I'm learning a lot because this is my first commercial role as well. At the same time, I'm able to contribute a lot as well, since I know the region extremely well, and I know India, and I know the Indian consumer mindset.
You can use all of your, courage, curiosity, and conviction, and of course your connections and your network.
Of course.
Great. So you've been building back the bridge to India.
Yes.
And I think that takes us also to something which is a little bit more personal. You're just always.
Absolutely.
The life forces. We talked it quite a bit in the presentation, but I think definitely, these are forces which define you, and of course, we cannot reduce you to these forces, but that's what really took you to this, amazing journey, and being able to, against all odds, do this move, and then be very successful in what you're doing, always through your own personality, the courage, curiosity, conviction, and connections.
Yes.
But now you want to go a little bit further, and and give back to
my community, of course, because absolutely. Not all of the untouchables in India have this opportunity to get educated, and make a big career move, or even dream of having a normal life in India, especially in the villages, when it comes to the villages. So I've created a new foundation in India called From Untouchable to Unstoppable.
It reminds me of somebody, but
so this is where I was thinking, I was going back to reflecting on my own life. And since I was a kid, I was always wanting to establish a school, always. And for me, education was at the heart of everything, because if you don't have education, you don't know where to go and what to look for. And it always fascinated me in India, because we have 330 million gods who share more than 2 million temples in India, while the number of schools is less than probably, 1 million or so.
Yeah.
So every nook and corner you have a temple. Absolutely. And there's a huge disconnect, because yes, temples are good for you to go and pray.
Yeah. Exclusive and at the expense of building schools.
Exactly. So my dream over here in From Untouchable to Unstoppable is, one, everything revolves around education, around this. So currently, it's a little delayed because of COVID, but doesn't matter. We are building a school for the untouchable kids, young girls, who cannot afford to get education. So
and you were telling me earlier on, I'm sorry, but that you kept, the only thing you kept back in India was a little bit
my
of property.
Yes, you're bang on. That's one of the reasons I kept the property in India, because I didn't want to sell it, since I wanted to build a school on it, always. And I think my property was destined to have a school on it. So this is a project that I've taken up, and any help from anyone I would, welcome, in terms of, putting up the school. Even if we can bring in a change for one child, and I could see in the coming 10 to 15 years, that child would come to France and study and go back to India.
Hopefully one day, go to Wharton or INSEAD.
Go to Wharton, go to INSEAD.
Become, director and managing a big region at L'Oréal.
Absolutely.
I think it's a fantastic life story and inspiring. So definitely support. Those who are listening, please don't hesitate to get in touch with Megha to help for the foundation. I know you already have quite a few supporters, including the people we mentioned, including L'Oréal Group, including many others. But I mean, it's always good to support.
Absolutely. And the second thing that I'm also doing is, specifically when you come from an untouchable community, the young girls are sold at a very young age. They're sold at the age of 12, 13, and they're sold for money, in exchange of money, and they're pushed into prostitution. So I was a lucky one, because thankfully I came from a well-educated background because of my parents. But if I was a villager, I would probably be sitting like the girl, in a camp, and at the age of 30, 35, they are disposed and they're discarded in the community, because prostitution is illegal in India and you're not recognized as an Indian citizen. So you have no way to rent something, get a job. There's nothing. You just don't exist on this earth. You're a ghost. You're a living ghost on this earth. So for this matter, I decided, let's build a shelter house for these women who are, homeless and hopeless. They don't have anything to look up to, and teach them sewing, cooking, handicrafts, to make them be able to even believe that, yes, I can survive on my own as well tomorrow, and give them an identity. Yes, give them an identity.
But give them the support.
Absolutely, give them the support. So this is something that also we would be doing at our foundation back in India.
Perfect. I think it's a fantastic project you have, Megha, and thank you. I think it's probably close to the end of our presentation, but I think frankly your journey from this engineer days back in India, from this untouchable village through various steps, and coming to Paris and making it really in the luxury world, and now being a renowned director in L'Oréal, managing this big region, and on top doing your personal project of, from Untouchable to Unstoppable and giving back to the community is very inspiring. So I hope our listeners, enjoyed it. And now, of course, we are right on time. So we hand it over to you. And if there are questions, and it's time for conclusion anyway. Sophie?
Thank you so much, Alain and Megha. Thank you so much. I have one question that I can read from our auditors. What are your views on inclusivity in the workplace, i.e. where you work here now at L'Oréal in France? And what do you do to improve it there?
It's a very good question. I think L'Oréal, the culture at L'Oréal is very, very, I would say, liberal, and they look at employees according to what they perform. So at the end of the day, the color of the skin really doesn't matter. I have not felt that at all when I joined. In fact, I have a lot of support coming in from across all the levels, whether it's horizontal or vertical levels. And I think, as I was saying before, and Alain, you also rightly pointed out, talking about empowerment is very, very important to L'Oréal. And we do talk more about gender equality, empowering women, bringing harmonious relationship in workspace, having open-minded approaches to everyone, to every culture. So I think this pleasantly and positively surprised me when I joined L'Oréal, which I never actually thought about it and I never expected it. But when I joined L'Oréal, I was very happy with the way they, with the way they support every nationality.
We don't hear you, Sophie.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Would you have other questions?
Yeah, I think that we have a question from one of the attendees, and it's about the influence of your roots into your work at Estée Dupont. How can you tell us a little bit about that? How you brought these roots, your history into the creation of some of these products?
Oh, this is a very, very important question as well for my transformation into luxury. Thank you for the question, because it really takes me back to my childhood days. When you're in a village in India, the way you grow up is completely different than what you grew up in the Western world, because everything is handmade. It's not perfect, but most of the things are handmade. Your clothes are handmade because they have to be stitched by a tailor. You have to eat at home most of the time. Going to a restaurant is literally an occasion to celebrate something big, You have to, probably shoes is okay, but you still have cobblers who can develop, who can create your shoes for your size, the way you want. Jewelry, you have many, many jewelers everywhere who have a small atelier in the village where you can see the entire process happening. So when I was growing up, my father used to take me, this is my father's side and I have a story on my mother's side. So my father used to take me shopping, which I absolutely adored, and he loved to shop. So when we went shopping, he used to ask me to hold the material and touch it and feel it and sense it, saying, this wool is good, this wool is not good because this is not good to wear since it doesn't feel very good. The yarn, the knit is not so sensitive. The yarn that is being used is not very soft. So you have to rub it against your skin to see if there is any allergy, etc. But if you come to this wool, then this is good for winter. This is good for summer. If you really want to have a woolen jacket in summer, you can't. But there are certain light wools that you can. The cotton, the silk. So all of these, and my father used to come for most of our shopping. So I started learning about materials and cuts and stitches, going to a tailor, getting the sizing done, knowing where to fit, how to fit, and everything. So this was the education that unknowingly I got from my father. At the same time, from my mother, she was into jewelry. So every single time she liked a design or she had some idea in her head, she would just take a paper and draw, and then she would take it back to our jeweler. And we used to see the entire process of melting the gold, purifying, creating the molds, the waxes, and then cooling the gold, polishing it, and then finishing it. And also the same thing in cutting stones as well. So unknowingly, I started loving these things as a kid. And when I came into Dupont, I started understanding how important is hands in luxury, handmade, handcrafted. And this is literally to the heart of any luxury brand.
If I can add to what you were saying, because on the question of Jérôme, or the question of the person who sent it, in fact, I think it's also, you have this culture which you described, and then you also have the engineering background. Which
yes.
helps you actually to, I think it helps you to create very different things. I mean, on the one hand, we have things like we said, like this steel lighter or whatever, which was a huge hit because you were pushing to miniaturize and to make sure, so you had both, on the one hand, what we call this haute création atelier, where we have everything which is handmade by artisans,
yes.
and then also coming in with more engineered type of products, which were on top, working for unisex, for male and female. Absolutely. It was really something which you uniquely brought, and I think it's really coming from your background, both your Indian background and your engineer background.
Absolutely. And then just to add and finish, the third aspect of it is when I started digging into the archives of Dupont, understanding his life story, understanding how he created Dupont, his generations, how they actually, came ahead, and all these little stories and anecdotes. One story which I love at Dupont is how it connects back to India, where the Maharaja of Patiala ordered 100 solid gold lighters for his 100 wives, So all of these, his father had 300 wives.
So only golden lighters.
Absolutely. So all of these stories and how he was curious to innovate materials, curious to take it to the next level, and also searching for talents around the world, kind of increased my curiosity, and a combination of all of this translated into beautiful products that we developed.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, well, thank you so much, Megha and Alain. I just wanted, there are a few questions which are more suggestions or call to action relating to the foundation. One of our auditors who just left, Philip Wilson, is a grad from Wharton, and started a foundation with a school 7 years ago with his wife. 300 kids are currently enrolled in Guatemala, and they will be very happy to share with you. So we'll put you in touch to share how they made it financially sustainable. Someone simply asked, how can we help your foundation?
Currently, I would say, well, write to me and we can discuss. I think that's the best answer. Because the help can come from any different way. We're not looking just for, financial help. We're looking for emotional support. We're looking for suggestions. Like if there is a model that is working in a different country and it's sustainable for so many years, how can I apply the same model? So help can come in many different ways. So please feel free to write to me directly.
For example, what you are suggesting is great that these people can, because you have the land, and you have found, a few to build. But then once you have the house, the shelter house, or even the school, the trick is how do you make it?
How do you make it work?
Work and find it sustainable. So you have already connections, I know, in education there in India. But I think any working model which has been proven in other countries will definitely help.
Definitely help. And of course, if there is any other way of helping, we can definitely explore in the conversations.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, both of you. And thank you, Megha. What a journey, really. We're very happy to have had a glance at such an incredible itinerary, and especially to jump from a continent to another. I particularly personally enjoyed the way you put a deep relationship between history and branding, and I think really you made a lot about what a very a reference brand like Estée Dupont can take to the world, and you answered many questions that were asked relating to how you made a relationship between your background and your present functions. I leave it up to now to my friend Thomas for INSEAD. I want to thank you very much in the name of the alliance of both our associations, and hope to see you guys very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Francois. I would just love to, add a thank you note as well. Thank you, Alain. And first of all, thank you, INSEAD and Wharton, for giving this opportunity. It's always a pleasure, because I've been working with INSEAD, more than ESSEC, by the way, with INSEAD for the past many years. We have written a case study together with INSEAD. I give lectures at INSEAD school. So now hopefully with, we extend the same relationship with Wharton University as well.
Definitely.
And we look forward to collaborative, projects.
So for the INSEAD, for the INSEAD alumni, obviously, thank you, Megha and Alain. I think this conference can only have made our participants much more optimistic after a difficult period, which may continue, by the way, and would have been very helpful for our students. And I'm glad you are teaching the students of INSEAD, Wharton, or ESSEC, because of the elements of, obviously, the two of the C's, which are sort of courage and conviction. The other two C's, curiosity and connection, are really helping me as the president of the association, as I'm sure Francois, to think that the association can bring that a lot to our alumni, is to bring people like you to talk to our alumni, to allow more curiosity and showing that conviction can make you a career at the beginning of your life because you are so young, but also later in your life while you develop it. And all of that, a couple of other things I noticed and which are very important is positive way versus complaining, which you mentioned, which may be, and I know I'm German, but which may be a little bit help for our French people. Positive thinking versus complaining. The other thing which I noticed is deep diving. At some stage, you have to deep dive. You have to get in control of what you want to really push in your career. I also thought about the rough edges, which you change slightly over time, and you don't have these rough edges anymore.
you know, Thomas, over here, Alain put it very well. You need to learn, when he was mentoring me at Dupont, he was like, you need to learn how to use your iron fist with a velvet glove.
Absolutely. And I think you need to also to cross the mirror, as I say, and to see that, how to work with the rest of the team. And basically all of that ended with, I think, a superb idea, which we push a lot in our approach of business and society, which is to give back. Basically, ESSEC, Wharton, INSEAD have given all of us an amazing change of our life, not just of our career, but of our life. And I think it is amazingly important and amazingly, it gives back us also a lot of things. When you give back, you help yourself, giving back yourself.
Yes.
The giving back was amazingly important. So thank you very much, Megha and Alain and Francois and Sophie who has organized that, and Jérôme. Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Okay. See you.